Greetings and welcome back to our channel, where we trace the strategic moves and fragile boundaries between peace and chaos on the global geopolitical chessboard. At times, the world reels from the roar of bombs and gunfire, but sometimes a seemingly peaceful region suddenly ignites, not because of armed conflict, but because of simmering tensions that erupt into political, diplomatic, and trust crises. Southeast Asia, once hailed as a dynamic growth hub and a model of cooperation for the developing world, is now facing an increasingly intense undercurrent. And this time the spotlight isn't on the South China Sea nor on the rivalry between global powers. The epicenter lies inland, along the border between Cambodia and Thailand, now emerging as the region's newest flashpoint. What's unfolding goes far beyond political rhetoric. We're witnessing hardline actions, from severing cross-border internet lines to militaristic statements from a figure who once symbolized power for decades. With each passing day, tensions climb another notch as the fragile pieces of regional trust crack under the weight of conflict, suspicion, and uncontrollable personal agendas. Some are calling it the ghost of 2011 returning. Others warn of a war without gunfire, yet laden with political damage. But from any angle, one thing is clear. Cambodia and Thailand are plunging into a chain reaction of escalation that, if left unchecked, could have consequences far beyond their shared border. And it all began with what seemed like a mere technical move, but one that carries deep geopolitical implications: the decision to cut cross-border internet access, effectively marking the start of an unprecedented crackdown campaign. On June 26th, a sudden decision by Thailand's National Broadcasting and Telecommunications Commission sent shockwaves across the region. All domestic internet providers were ordered to halt services, both broadband and mobile, to Cambodia. On the surface, the official reason sounded reasonable: to dismantle increasingly sophisticated and dangerous cross-border scam networks, especially fraudulent call centers that are costing millions of baht each week. But beneath that technical justification, a political undercurrent is surging. Regional media report that it was Cambodia that first began unilaterally severing internet links from the Thai side, an action deemed opaque and one-sided. Still, private Thai telecom companies had continued to maintain service through backup routes and proxies, prompting suspicions in Bangkok. Could there be internal collusion with scam operations? Or worse, a covert deal between certain businesses and the Phnom Penh government? The result was a series of tough countermeasures. Not only was internet access cut in border provinces for a full 15 days, but telecom providers were also ordered to regularly report SIM card data, a move signaling Thailand's shift from cooperation to control. For Cambodian citizens, especially the tens of thousands of migrant workers, this meant disconnection, loss of access to information, and severed lines of communication vital for business, healthcare, or staying in touch with family. Some were forced to turn to illegal networks, while others were left anxious as the digital lifeline of commerce was slowly strangled. But this is about more than telecommunications. Thailand's open move to clamp down on the internet is seen as a stern warning, a preemptive strike in an increasingly unpredictable political chess game. And in a swift response, just hours after the cutoff order was issued, a man once regarded as the face of Cambodian power appeared at the front lines, not in a politician's suit, but in military fatigues. His name is no stranger to international observers, and his appearance, coupled with a series of provocative remarks, left the entire region holding its breath. Just hours after Thailand issued the internet cutoff order, Cambodians were stunned to see a familiar face appear on national television: Hunen, the former prime minister who ruled for nearly 40 years and now serves as Senate president, standing at the northern border in camouflage military uniform, microphone in hand, his voice echoing among ranks of soldiers. This time, there were no soft political statements. He spoke like a battlefield commander. "I am still strong enough to fight, and if necessary, I will personally lead the front line." That image, a man once regarded as the chief architect of Cambodian politics, now clad in military gear and speaking the language of a warrior, immediately sent shockwaves through public opinion. In Preah Vihear province, near past conflict zones, he not only declared a readiness to fight, but also officially took on the role of logistics commander for Cambodia's Royal Armed Forces, This was confirmed by the RCAF and celebrated by national media as a symbol of maximum self-defense. In Arminchi, he urged soldiers to be ready not just to defend, but to counterattack if the situation demands it. To the public, Hunen was no longer just a retired politician. He was a living reminder of an era when Cambodia was tough, closed off, and confronted external threats with guns and patriotic pride. But beneath that steely exterior, analysts saw something else: unease about a political legacy under threat. Hunen's sudden reappearance in a military role wasn't just about patriotism. It signaled an attempt by the old guard to reclaim influence, especially as the personal networks that once formed his greatest strength were beginning to fray. From Bangkok to Tokyo, in closed-door ASEAN meetings and across leaked social media posts, one question echoed: is Hunen defending the nation or his own political legacy? And the answer may have begun to surface shortly after, when a secret audio recording, allegedly between Hunen and Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn, was leaked, sending shockwaves through Bangkok's political landscape. What began as a military-tinged standoff between Cambodia and Thailand suddenly veered in a new direction, where the weapon wasn't a gun, but a phone call recorded at just the right moment. The atmosphere in Bangkok, already tense due to the border situation, grew even more suffocating when a more than 9-minute audio recording suddenly surfaced on social media platforms. At first, few believed it was real, but as the content was gradually verified, featuring the unmistakable voices of Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn and Cambodian Senate President Hunen, the political storm became unstoppable. In the recording, Paetongtarn not only shared strategic diplomatic information, but also made comments that appeared critical of the Thai military, especially regarding compromises made in opening and closing border checkpoints at Cambodia's request. While the language used was not overtly directive, every word carried heavy implications: a behind-the-scenes relationship, an exchange of favors that exceeded standard intergovernmental protocols. Lawyers and opposition politicians moved swiftly. Prominent attorney Tiwa Song immediately submitted a petition to Thailand's election commission, demanding an investigation and the dissolution of Paetongtarn's ruling Pheu Thai party, citing serious breaches of public ethics and endangerment of national security. A wave of public outrage spread rapidly. Conservative media outlets seized the moment, replaying the recording with scathing commentary. On the streets, small protest groups gathered in front of Parliament, holding signs that read, "Betraying the nation is unforgivable." In what was described as a shocking but honest move, Prime Minister Paetongtarn publicly admitted the recording was real. She said, "I do not deny the content of the call. I only regret that it was used out of context and intent." But that admission, rather than calming the public, poured fuel on the fire. The people didn't care about context. They cared about trust, and now that trust was broken. What began as a border crisis quickly spiraled into a political earthquake in Thailand. Paetongtarn's true adversary was no longer just the military faction or opposition parties. It was her personal connection with Hunen, a relationship long suspected, now laid bare in the most sudden and dangerous way. And as if the chaos weren't enough, another arrow was unexpectedly fired, this time not at Paetongtarn, but at someone once considered Hunen's closest friend, former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. During a public gathering in Phnom Penh, Hunen openly spoke with bitterness. "Now I've been betrayed. I will not stay silent any longer." Those words were not just thunderclaps out of a clear sky. They signaled a new chapter, where a friendship once celebrated as a symbol of reconciliation had now turned into an irreconcilable grudge. For years, the relationship between Hunen and Thaksin Shinawatra was seen as a brotherhood that transcended borders and political ideologies. When Thaksin was overthrown and exiled, it was Hunen who welcomed him with open arms, offering sanctuary, preserving his honor, and opening backdoor channels for his return to politics. They weren't just allies, they were confidants, sitting together to discuss peace, power, and the future of the region. But times changed. When Thaksin's daughter, Paetongtarn, rose to become Prime Minister of Thailand, the cracks began to show. Hunen felt sidelined, discarded like a pawn whose value had expired. In a public speech in Phnom Penh, he made no effort to hide his bitterness. "I once believed he was a friend. I once believed his family understood loyalty, but now I've been betrayed." And Hunen didn't stop at words. He hinted at exposing everything, including allegedly offensive remarks Thaksin had made about the Thai royal family during private conversations. Such revelations, if made public, could not only provoke the wrath of the Thai public, but also deal a devastating blow to the already fragile political standing of the Shinawatra family. Thaksin's side did not remain silent. In a closed-door meeting in Bangkok, he spoke briefly to his closest advisors. "I'm heartbroken. But if he chooses that path, then there's nothing left for us to say." A friendship that had weathered coups, crises, and years in exile was now shattered by just a few bitter words. People across the region watched in disbelief. A friendship once hailed as the foundation for regional reconciliation had now become the ignition point for a new political confrontation. And just as this personal rift threatened to drag both nations into a spiral of instability, an external force quietly entered the scene. In Phnom Penh, when Hunen welcomed General Morishita Yasunori, Chief of Staff of the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, the tone had changed completely. Gone were the sharp words and steely declarations. In their place came a calm, strategic appeal to uphold international law as a means to preserve peace, before hatred slips beyond anyone's control. As regional tensions escalated by the hour, the arrival of a special guest in Phnom Penh drew significant attention. General Morishita Yasunori, Chief of Staff of the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, and a key figure in Asia-Pacific security strategy. His meeting with Cambodian Senate President Hunen wasn't broadcast live, unlike previous fiery speeches, but behind the scenes it hinted at a significant shift in how Cambodia was handling the crisis. In a formal yet discreet reception, Hunen expressed a desire for Japan to provide legal and diplomatic support in Cambodia's border dispute with Thailand. He emphasized that Cambodia did not seek war nor military confrontation, but simply a fair and transparent international mechanism to resolve long-standing tensions at hotspots like Tam Wan Touch, Mumbai, and Takrabai, places where overlapping borders have long been entangled with unresolved histories and deep-seated suspicion. In response, Japan made its stance clear. Tokyo was willing to act as a bridge, supporting efforts to maintain peace and regional stability. Japan also affirmed its backing of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, as a legitimate avenue for conflict resolution, rather than allowing parties to slide further down the path of confrontation. That meeting didn't change the game overnight, but it sent a notable signal. Cambodia hadn't shut the door on diplomacy. Amid the tough rhetoric and military posturing, there remained a quiet space for hope. But the question lingered. Would that space last long enough to stop the first shot? Because while the leaders on both sides calculated their diplomatic moves on the ground in the border areas, the reality was far more ominous. Thousands of Cambodians were forced to evacuate from the Pria, Vihear, and Choman regions. Military trucks became a common sight. Border outpost flags were lowered at night, and red warning lights stayed on around the clock. On the Thai side, the response was equally assertive. Troops were mobilized, and an atmosphere of alertness spread throughout the eastern provinces. The situation now resembles a tightly drawn bowstring, one that could snap with a single movement, a misunderstanding, or an unguarded statement. And in this tense climate, ASEAN, the organization long expected to serve as the cornerstone of regional peace, has yet to raise a voice strong enough to bring the parties back to the negotiating table. If that silence continues, it may mark the opening chapter of a full-blown crisis, one that no nation in the region wishes to witness again. Not a single shot has been fired, yet the air along the Cambodia-Thailand border is thick with tension. Every soldier's step, every silent line of evacuees leaving their homes, every military truck rumbling over dusty trails, all of it speaks to a truth no one dares say aloud. War is no longer a hypothetical. It is slowly becoming a real possibility. In Pria Vihear and Choman, two of the most volatile points near the border, thousands of civilians have been urgently evacuated. They carry only what they can hold: a few changes of clothes, some dry food, and an unnamed fear pressing against their chests. Villages that once bustled with life have fallen eerily silent, broken only by the crackle of radios and loudspeakers repeating constant warnings. In some areas, rolling blackouts have begun, making the night feel even heavier and more uncertain. On the Thai side, the military is on high alert. Border posts have been reinforced with weaponry, surveillance systems run around the clock, guards are ordered not to leave their stations, and rapid response commands have been issued, not for preemptive strikes, but to be ready for any unexpected development. Though no one voices it openly, the trauma of the 2011 clashes still haunts the memories of people on both sides of the frontier. Meanwhile, ASEAN, the regional bloc once expected to serve as the bedrock of peace, has yet to assert itself as a meaningful mediator. Member states remain silent or issue only formulaic statements, no emergency meetings, no defined path to reconciliation. That silence is deepening the fragility of the situation, where even minor incidents could ignite a far-reaching crisis. Many international observers believe that if conflict breaks out this time, it will be far more than a simple border dispute. It would be the culmination of accumulated tensions, unresolved historical grievances, internal political fractures, and intensifying power struggles among external players. And if ASEAN does not raise its voice, if it fails to step in as a bridge, then what is happening now may set a dangerous precedent for the entire region. A region where stability was once considered the most precious asset in an increasingly volatile world. The Cambodia-Thailand crisis is no longer just a border dispute. It has gone beyond the limits of geography to become a critical test for the entire Southeast Asian region. A test of political maturity, of the ability to keep personal emotions in check during major decisions, and above all, of ASEAN's true role in preserving peace. When relationships once painted with the word brotherhood crack under the weight of power struggles, when promises of cooperation are drowned out by suspicion and political vendettas, it is the people, those who never chose war, who suffer first. In times as fragile as a thread, every decision and every word from leaders has the power to rewrite history, either toward healing or toward a future no one wants to remember. And if Southeast Asia hopes to maintain its standing as a land of peace and progress, then the time has come for all parties to act with greater clarity and restraint than ever before. If you found this analysis valuable, don't forget to like, share the video to help more people understand the situation, leave a comment below to join the discussion, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest developments on the global geopolitical chessboard. Thank you for watching.